looks like it's finally time for Queen Azshara to return. Everything has led to this. As you may know, we got the prophecy that said the Queen will return after the War Within stuff is over, and when Xal'atath completes the awakening, it will finally happen. Now, Xal'atath, as you may know, has reached the core of Azeroth through the darkwell, and it is about to happen. At the same time, in the new patch, we just discovered yet another Naga faction, but these Naga are not actually working with the Void, but they're taking their power and they're gathering a suspicious amount of energy for some sort of an event that they're talking about, which is likely the return of Queen Azshara. We also know the Naga have recently split into multiple factions, so they're all working on the summoning, and some are working against it, and better yet, is Azshara coming back as a new villain, an independent one, or just another servant of the Void and Xal'atath? Let's look at everything that we know. Wait, did you just catch that? That was Overgear, saving you time even with ads. If you use my code TANSKIP, you will get 10% of the best WoW coaching, saving you time. Use code TANSKIP for every single order. So, as you may know, this speculation has been going around for a couple of years now, by pretty much since the start of the Dragonfight. Like, we got this document that literally predicted everything that happened ever since. It's like a blueprint for the past 3 expansions, or the next 3 expansions since Dragonflight. It talked about Xal'atath gathering the children of the first flesh while the Naga go to the Dragon Isles. It talked about Xal'atath talking to a primal power that wants to end the Titans, which is obviously Redicron. It talked about the Hunger, which was Galakron, and about the Dark Heart left broken, which is what Xal'atath took and now already used it. The thing is though, these 3 chapters already happened in the prophecy. The 4th one is the final one that also happened, which means that here the return is finally happening. It says that when everything comes to pass, the Harbinger will fulfill the prophecy and complete the awakening. Only then shall our Queen return to reign over the sea, sky and earth. We must make ready. It talked in the first bit how Azshara is calling beyond the Void Veil, and she has transcended the Circle of Stars, and that she is ready to come any moment now. Now, this last moment is literally exactly what we can expect to happen in Midnight Finale. As you guys may already know, while we cleansed the Darkwell, Xal'atath actually completed her plan, and this was confirmed by dialogue that happened after this Elven reunion. It told us that while we cleansed the Sunwell, she literally used the leyline connection of the Sunwell to channel her entire army directly into the core of the world, which I'm guessing is now the part where the fulfilling of the final prophecy will happen and completing the awakening, which is what the final bit says, which, by the way, confirms that Azshara is going to come then, which I'm like 99% certain is going to happen in Midnight. Here are the 2 reasons. I mean, we data mine Azoth's model, which, as you may know, is technically the creator of the Naga and intrinsically tied to Queen Azshara. And second is that in 12.0.5 we discovered a whole bunch of Naga storylines, questlines, and NPCs that further confirms this. So let me just show you the current evidence that we have for this happening. So if you guys follow my channel, I actually talked about this a while back, because even in the Midnight Alpha, we had discovered Naga settlements in Xal'atath, like these Naga camps, which I personally expected to play an even bigger role due to the Elven reunion, which ended up being not all that interesting. But we now have context for what is going on internally with the Naga, and it is quite interesting. As we know, the Naga are technically elves, and while they're Old God affiliated, it's not like these guys are Old God fanatics. I mean, Azoth kinda tricked them and gave them the choice either to drown or to become Old God servants, and it's not like they really had much of a choice in that moment. I mean, we had hints even back in the day that Azshara was not exactly loyal to Azoth, and as you may know, she is now in the Void Veil, and Xal'atath is currently the Void leader. Previously, she talked about not working with intermediaries, which kind of indicates that she may be aligned with Xal'atath now directly. Now, back at the War Within, we've already learned a few very interesting things for this event. First, the Naga within Azeroth fought between themselves and apparently created multiple factions in the absence of the Queen, which indicates that they're splintered, but we still don't know if they're all loyal to Azshara. What we do know is that when the Siren Isle was discovered on the orders of Queen Azshara, the Dark-Tide Naga were sent to claim the Singing Crystal, which is related to Belladara, which is very likely going to be relevant soon as well. She didn't really want that as like a random trinket, but probably because they already know what these crystals are, and they're going to be really useful later down the line. Now, in Xal'atath, yet another mission is here, but this one is very intriguing. These deep lurk Naga that are led by Narjira, that you might actually remember from Cataclysm and Vashir. Narjira was a Naziar battle maiden, but was later crowned as the champion of Azshara. She fought the Qualdir that attacked the Naga deep within the seas, and the report that we managed to obtain
is actually very juicy. So what we discovered in Quaterlas is that these Naga are actually working against the Void, and they're siphoning their power in these new ritual sites, and they seem to be harvesting energy for currently an unknown purpose. The discovered report states that Narjira offered her Naga to the Endeavors in Eversong. The Dark Tide apparently didn't cooperate. It says that when the Concord of Tides is called, we must be the first to answer. Very mysterious and such, but I'm guessing the Concord of Tides is probably going to be related to the big summoning event where Queen Azshara finally returns. I mean, literally everything is foreshadowing to this event, but it is incredibly interesting, like, what is even actually going on here? I mean, are these Naga actually loyal to Queen Azshara and they're doing something, or are they working for an entirely different faction, maybe even against Queen Azshara? As you may know, we've learned in the War Within, as I mentioned, that the Naga get splintered. I'm guessing some are no longer following the Old Gods or Queen Azshara in the Void, and this could realistically even lead to a friendly Naga faction, because the Naga are not always villains, as we had learned back in Warcraft 3. A lot of things changed since the War of the Ancients and the Sundering when they accept this new form. However, if these Naga are working for Azshara, why are they working against the Void? And if they're working against her, it would also kind of makes sense. Let's just think about this. Based on the fact that the questline later confirms that they're obtaining an insane amount of arcane energy, these dudes literally just came here to Quaterlas to farm mana. It really kind of seems to lead to one thing, and that is probably the end of the prophecy and finally that long-awaited return of Queen Azshara. As you can see, the prophecy stated that in the moment when Xal'atath completes the awakening, Queen Azshara is going to return to Azeroth to rule over everything. It will be interesting to see what happens here exactly. Honestly, I don't know if this entire years of foreshadowing is only for Azshara to return as the final boss of Midnight and a single patch villain. I don't know if that is really that great of a deal, but honestly, I do think it is kind of a very likely scenario at this point in time. I just don't think it is realistic that Azshara is going to return as this giant new storyline where she just does her own thing. I mean, currently there just isn't enough room with the Titan focus and how deep we are in the World Soul Saga and the last Titan for her to come back and have a huge storyline. The only scenario I could see her being saved for after the World Soul Saga is if she comes back and then just retreats back into the sea with her Naga, the story ends on a cliffhanger. This I can definitely see as a realistic scenario. On the other hand, lore-wise, it doesn't actually make much sense for Azshara to just be a random servant and yet another lieutenant of Xal'atath. I mean, Queen Azshara once ruled pretty much all of Azeroth through the Night Elven Empire. She was at one point the most powerful being on Azeroth. The only reason she ever served in Zot was because she had no other choice. But if there is one thing Azshara is known for, that is arrogance, and arrogance doesn't exactly, go hand in hand with serving other people. I don't think Azshara's master plan was just to switch Zot for Xal'atath, unless Xal'atath gives her an insane amount of power. So even in the independent scenario, I could see a possibility of Azshara just retreating back into the sea. I think that would honestly be the best case scenario, since we also have the Arati humans that are potentially on the other side of Azeroth, and later we could have a sea-based expansion. I think it just wouldn't be a great idea, as Queen Azshara is one of the most iconic characters of the Warcraft universe, to just end up as a single patch villain and be over with. But honestly, I can't say that I don't expect that to happen either. Thank you for watching. Check out Xal'atath is also finally foreshadowed to return by clicking on the screen, and subscribe to my brand new Witcher lore channel by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time.